Hello and welcome to Rat Class. So a few weeks ago I made an episode about jobs, about how they all have to be looked in a different way so we don't make some job more or less important than others because we all need them for our society to function. And this is an episode about jobs as well, but jobs taken from my life, from my experience. And I'm gonna talk about some of the more hard jobs or jobs where you meet people in a weird way. So I will try and get into some of those. And the reason I'm doing this is because that now that the world is opening up again after a lot of people is beginning to get the vaccine and COVID is beginning to become more controlled, there's a lot of focus on jobs and people not wanting to taking jobs. And since I have tried a lot of different jobs during my life, I want to share the experience of some of them. But the focus in the world has been on people not wanting to do jobs like cleaning, food preparation, waitering, and stuff like that. Jobs that have hard work or low pay or where the hours are stupid if you have a family. And I have done different jobs. Like I have worked as a food prepper, as a cook, and in a bakery. I have worked in shops as a cashier and as a filler up. I have also worked on farms, and that was hard work. And that's also something that has been hard finding people who want to do. So all in all, I have done a bit of different stuff, and there's even some jobs that are on my list I won't come into today. But my experience might not be the same as other people because it might differ why people don't take jobs. It can, as I said, be low pay, hard hours, stupid hours, hard work, or a workplace where you have to be service minded and have to uh, be able to be around other people no matter how annoying they might be. So I will split this episode up into different jobs as I had, and the low pay, work hours, hard work, and service mentality will be covered in some of the jobs, and some have all of them. But speaking from my own experience, I will try and give a light on how hard it can be and why I understand fully why people don't want to do it and where some change might be needed to make the jobs worthwhile so we actually can begin to see people work those jobs again. Well, my first job was on a farm. I began working as a kid. I grew up on a farm and I worked there. And then when I got older, I found work on a farm a bit away from where I lived, where I also worked. And when I worked at home, it was after school hours and during the weekends, and it was often hard work, like most farming is. And the hours were bad at some seasons. You worked all day from morning to night, like when harvest came, and the pay was really not that worth it. So I can easily understand why people don't flock to that job and how closing borders around the world led to farms not being able to get help they needed last summer when the harvest had to get in. One thing that can be hard to change about farming though is the hours, because depending on what kind of farm you have, you need to get up a certain time of day, and all farms take a lot of time, no matter if it's only animals you have or you have a land, because it takes a lot of time to prepare it all. Then I actually began working as a baker, and the work hours were hard. The pay was semi-okay, not something to write home about, but since I worked at night, I got a bonus due to laws where I live. The work was just normal work. The only hard thing really was the hours, and that was really, really hard because it could be hard to have a normal life where you were able to meet friends and so on, because you had to go to bed at fixed times and stuff like that. Then I worked as a cook. The hours from morning to evening, but I was able to influence my hours and what shift to take. The pay was not that great. You had to work a lot to get some good pay. But since I stood next to the place where the food were made and picked up, I sadly often got brunt of the people who were mad about the food. And it was just a bistro in a supermarket, so the food was something where you can't really get mad if you don't get a full gourmet dinner experience to that price. But some people did believe that that was what they were getting. Or the people who came up to complain about the food, saying it was bad, and then they show their plate, and all there's left is like a tiny corner of the food. They have eaten the rest, and then they get mad because they didn't get their full money back or they didn't get free stuff. And something I'm sure all people working in places with food preparation and service knows of. And I understand if we make an error that a person complains about it, or if the food is really, really bad and then comes up instantly instead of eating all of it and then saying, oh, by the way, it was bad, I want my money back. Or people who get mad when they had to wait for more than like 3 minutes to get their food. Then I went on to work in some shops and I worked both as a cashier and a fitter. And the pay was normal and the hours were depending on my shift. So it could be from morning to evening or just doing the evening and stuff like that. But shop does also have a lot of social interaction with people. And what I really hated were the people who came in like 1 minute before close and were like, I just need this one milk. And then you let them in, and then half an hour later, they are running around still trying to find stuff they want. And all you have to do is either tell them to leave the place, and then they will get extremely mad, or you have to let them finish and wait for you to be able to go home and rest and have the day off. And luckily, you get to a point where you're so tired of people doing this that you just begin to close the door before closing time so they can't get into the shop because for some reason people don't seem to understand that the people working in the shop also have to go home and have a life. But that doesn't cross a person's mind. It's like, I just want this stuff and I want all of this, and I don't want to bother about you having to stay half an hour extra and work because I just want my stuff. All the people that stand around the cashier area and begin to yell because there was something wrong with what they were charged. But most of the times, I really don't have a saying in what they are charged because it's all done on a computer system that I, as a normal cashier, don't have any access to. So it's so frustrating when they turn their anger on me, a person who can't do anything about it. I can call my boss, but then ask for the boss instead of just laying it on me because I'm just sitting there beeping all the stuff. And after I worked in the shop, I actually began noticing when I'm in shops and people begin to yell and stuff like that, that I have begun to defend the people sitting at the cashier point because often it's not their fault that some object have been scanned and the right price is not there because it's not the cashier's job to manually check it all. It's an IT system in the back. And in some places, actually, a IT system that is in like a connected place at the headquarters instead of just the shops. And I'm pretty sure that most of us, not only people working in shops, but most of us have seen people get mad about small things in a shop, and it's really something that makes me sad to see how easily people become stressed and begin to yell at people. And I'm not really sure why it's happening or why it's happening to us, but it just seems like people have begun to become way more busy and only looking at what they want for themselves. So they tend to forget that it's a person they're yelling at, a person who often just trying to do their job. I even had a colleague one time that actually began to cry in the middle of it all because this person was just laying it on her and she couldn't do anything. The boss was not coming. She pinged for him and he was on his way, but that person was just yelling so much calling her names and a lot of other stuff. And I understand why she began to cry. And actually, she was allowed to go home for the rest of the day because that person just broke her. And that makes me sad and mad. But I couldn't do anything either because I was sitting in another cash point where customers were coming in. So I was busy as well. So I couldn't just leave them and go over to him and say, please go home, come back when you are not that angry anymore, and then we can look at it. And it actually ended up my boss took him out, and then they had a little fight on the parking lot, and then he left. And today I work as something called a pedagogue. And it's kind of a teacher, social worker, kindergarten teacher thing. Um, where I live, we are able to take people from when they're born, basically, and to when they die. And that is also hard work, not in the sense like it's hard labor, but it's hard work because I work in a school and a lot of the kids become more self-centered and the parents are beginning to slowly become worse because they don't always trust what we are saying. The hours are normal. It's from 8 to 5 most days. The pay is really low. It's one of the lowest paid jobs with if you look at education level where I live. But yeah, I love it. So I hope the pay will change soon so we can actually begin to make a living from doing this very important job we do. But I hope that this small talk about jobs have given you an idea about how some jobs can be and given an idea of why people might not want to go back to those jobs now that the society is opening up again. So all I can say is I do hope you have a job now that you feel worth it. And if you used to have a job that you did not like, feel free to share it with me. Why you didn't like it, what was wrong with it, and you can share it with me. Just find Rand Class at Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, or Instagram, and then I hope you all will join me on the next episode. So I wish you all a very happy day.